Hello, contenders. Welcome to the Nobo Trading Candlestick course for reading raw price action. Now, for our course takers, we're going to go over some names of different candlestick patterns. Just be aware that you're not going to be quizzed on these names, and that the main focus of this portion of the course is one, to provide a visualization that isn't provided on the website. And two, just to make sure that you understand how to interpret raw price action. Being able to read each individual candle or what's going on within a section of candles is going to be more important than knowing all these names. Although the names can help a lot of people with the memorization, the pattern recognition of what's happening. Okay. And that's completely fine. Whatever works best for you is what works. I'm not saying there's any best way. Now, the first thing to also really drive home is the importance of being able to interpret raw price action. Pretty much everything else that we do is built on this. And learning to read raw price action will help with both entries and exits. You can literally just trade off raw price action and learning to read candlesticks. Everything else is supplemental to help provide a further edge. But really, it starts with being able to interpret price action. So understand that this is probably the most important part of the technical analysis section of the course. Okay. So understand this, watch it a few times if you need to, go through the course framework a few times if you need to, but understand we're not going to quiz you on the names of all of these. We just want to make sure that you understand the tug of war that's happening within each candle, and understand that supply and demand dynamic. Okay, the battle between buyers and sellers. So, as you can see, we're looking at a daily chart on the SPY index, and so that means that each of these candles represents one full day of price action, right? On the 1 day chart. If I go to the 1 hour chart, that means each of these candles represents 1 hour's worth of price action. And then we can go to the 1 minute as well. And we can see those minute moves in the market where each candle is showing you 1 minute of price action. And then if you're a bit of a psycho, you can even watch one candle. But we'll go back to the daily and some of these larger candles. It's a little bit easier to kind of talk about what's going on here. So we'll use this as an example. So this is a bearish candle because it's red. And so since it's a red candle, we know that this candle, the day opened at this price at the top of the body of the candle here. This wick here above the top of the body tells us where the price extended to at some point in the day. The wick to the bottom shows us where price extended to at some point in the day. Okay. And then the bottom of the body tells us where price ended for that day. Okay. So what's going on there is sellers drove this down and buyers brought it back up. And this is where they finished on the day, which was down, which formed the red candle. Right. Then we have the green candle here, which tells us it was a bullish day. It tells us that price opened here at the bottom of this body of this candle. And at some point in the day, sellers brought it down here to the bottom of this wick. And buyers fought it all the way up here to the top of the wick. And then they finished at the top of the body of the candle. Okay. So then there's different ways to interpret raw price action. And we'll try to pick up some examples from this 1 minute chart. So, like here. So here's two great examples, actually, of reversals. So this is often called the three crows here, where you have three bearish candles at the top of a bullish structure. So the buyers overall were fighting this up and up. And then they ended up getting a reversal with three bearish candles in a row that ended up causing a major trend in behavior that caused a retracement in the market. And this one in particular brought the market down for the rest of the day, and that ended up being a top. And you actually have a double confirmation of this here. We have, again, the three crows, three red candles here, bringing the market back down. At the top of this, you also have, there's got to be a better example of this here, but that's a good example of it. This is called an evening star here. So you have this very strong bullish candle here. Big body on this candle, right? Lots of buyers. Buyers were able to push price pretty high. It didn't, not all the way up, right? So the sellers brought it down a little bit, but overall it's a good strong move to the upside, right? And then sellers tried to wick it all the way down. Tried to engulf the previous candle, but couldn't. Buyers brought it back up. And then the next candle, sellers brought it back down again. Pretty extreme downside there, right? They brought it way down. This type of formation at the top of rallies is another sign of a reversal. That was the worst arrow ever. And you can see that price action brought it down. You can see this also inverted. And if it was inverted, you would call it a morning star. And it would tell you that price action is getting bullish. This is called the evening star. Right? And then here's an example of three white soldiers. Look at that. Really strong price action there. Sellers come in with what we would call an bullish, engulfing bullish candle here, where the buyers completely engulf the sellers of the previous candle. It's a very bullish, impulsive move. And then you also get the 3-bar confirmation there. Okay, so now we can be pretty confident that we're going to get a continuation from there. And then that's when you see sellers step in with, or buyers step in rather, with big size, and they drive price action much higher. It's another great way to look for both a continuation and both for a change in behavior. Now we can kind of talk about this structure as well. This isn't the best example of this wicking, but this is often called gotta be a better example of this somewhere, right? That's a really great morning star. That's one we're studying. Brought it back into the pre-market structure, defended it, got a nice reversal. You then additionally have this test, kind of test of the same support later in the day that also is defended. That's another entry for a buy. So we kind of have this like pre-market structure here that we can see, right? And you'll kind of learn this later in the written portion of the course when we're talking about key levels. And then in the next portion of the course, we'll talk about pre-market structure. But this is kind of a test of that structure. And you have this candle with this large wick to the downside. Sellers try to push this back into this area of the pre-market structure, and buyers came in and defended it, creating this long wick. That's an exhaustion of sellers. That's what that long wick tells you. And also see the opposite of that. And actually, I can think of a great example of the opposite of this. If we go to Oklo here, we look at the monthly. This was a big short that we took, actually, because of this big exhaustion here. As you can see, buyers tried to shove this way up. Also take note that we're on the monthly chart here, but buyers tried to take this all the way up, and sellers brought them almost all the way down. This, especially on longer trends, tells you that there is a massive exhaustion of buyers. And if we look at the weekly here, we can see a confirmation of that. We're seeing the complete exhaustion of all the buyers, and it's bringing the market back down. And actually, here, we then have 3 crows. And this tells you that it's pretty likely that you're going to get a continuation to the downside from here. It's the worst arrows ever about a continuation to the downside here, okay? So be mindful of these shooting stars, as they're called, where buyers drive this price action higher, market takes it back down, and then you also have this great confirmation here of this 3-bar bearish pattern to the downside, right? We'll go back over to SPY and see if we can find anything else that looks appealing. Okay. Actually, this is actually a great example here of just an inside candle. We can see that this candle right here has traded completely within the prior candle. This is a moment of indecision. So if we had seen several candles that traded inside this prior candle, it's a great point to maybe look for a breakout. We're seeing accumulation. Market's kind of debating which way price should go. They're arguing it out, battling it out. Some people are coming in and selling. Some people are coming in and buying, saying it's this price. No, it should be this price. And then when it breaks, it's a confirmation of no, this should be higher. And then more people step in and buy it, giving the confirmation that no, price should be higher. It deserves to be higher. And we're telling you that by spending our money. That's what the price action is telling you, okay? And you can see that, you know, if that happened on a Tuesday, because we're on a weekly chart here, if that happened on a Tuesday, okay, Wednesday, Thursday, we're all up days from there, right? It can be very bullish. It can be very bearish. It's also the basis for one of the strategies that you'll cover later in your course. But that is the basics of interpreting candles so that you can learn how to read basic price action. That was not an exhaustive list of all the different candlestick patterns, but remember what's most important here is that you're able to interpret what each candle means and what it's telling you as far as the debate goes between buyers and sellers, and learning to identify those major changes in behavior on a smaller time frame chart or even on a larger time frame chart can help you with entries and your exits. So I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section on the video. If it's a good enough question, we'll change some stuff in the course to help you learn. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. If it was, maybe leave a like as well, because it is YouTube, and check out the course at nobletrading.com. Okay, God bless. Good luck on your trading.